Hurst with more. Good morning, Scott. Good to see you. The big highlight, of course, of the economic statement is the additional spending, adding to $20 billion to the deficit.
Good morning, Akshay. Of course, the former finance minister's resignation and the future of the ruling Liberal Party really overshadowing the release of this 270-page document, the long-anticipated fall economic statement released amid so much political turmoil. But Canadians did find out that Ottawa's deficit is now nearly $62 billion. It showed the feds really blew past a promise to keep the deficit at or below $40 billion. So really quite a ballooning deficit as one of the headlines as part of the fall economic statement. There is about $24 billion in new spending over the next 6 years, and that includes the already in place 2-month GST, HST tax holiday, but the proposed $250 rebate checks for Canadians left out of the fall economic statement. All this coming amid huge economic uncertainty with the incoming Trump team. But the budget does promise, crucially, about $1.3 billion that's tied to border security. Of course, that's all part of the threat of tariffs from the incoming Trump administration. And over half of that $1.3 billion is slated for the CBSA. Of course, opposition parties, Akshay, are predictably slamming the Liberals' update amongst all the other turmoil that's going on in Ottawa right now. The Conservatives, while being critical of spending, also highlight much of it is short on detail and rather reiterating many past announcements. That's from the Conservatives, while the NDP saying it's a budget that fails Canadians, putting profit over people, Akshay. So digging in through some of the numbers, the ballooning deficit, of course, one of the big headlines amidst all the other turmoil that's going on in Ottawa with the resignation of former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland.
Let's just talk about that noise and the turmoil a little more, Scott. We know there is a lot of noise in Ottawa even this morning because of that resignation. Are there any hidden nuggets we are looking at?
Yeah, of course, their resignation really took up so much of the oxygen on Parliament Hill, but there also are a few things in this budget that might have gotten lost in the shuffle. Billions has been pledged to encourage businesses to invest. The economic update also has more than $17 billion, in fact, and the feds outlined a move to ease limits for pension funds investing in Canadian companies, as former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland said last week, where competition for capital has intensified, ultimately making it easier for Canadian pension funds to make more large investments in Canadian entities, but also a symbolic gesture that got caught in all the turmoil and controversy yesterday. And part of the fall economic statement was an update honoring a legendary and iconic Canadian. The Liberals announcing in the fall economic statement, Terry Fox will be featured on the next $5 banknote, Akshay. So lots of things in there that Canadians are starting to parse through right now to see how they might affect them personally or affect the Canadian business climate as well.
CTV Scott Hurst. Scott, thank you.
Thanks, Akshay.